Hello Karthik, how are you today?
I'm awesome, Kaushik. How are you?
Amazing as always. Alright Karthik, today we're talking to Narayan, the head of marketing for PayPal India. And and when we're gonna talk to him, it's gonna be impossible to imagine that that's actually him.
Yeah.
Such a down-to-earth, humble person. And there's one thing from our conversation which I will never forget, which we've been talking. He's like, don't overthink things and don't take yourself too seriously.
Hmm.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Coming from such a well-established person, and it speaks volumes. What do
Yeah.
you think, Karthik?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Narayan and I, we go back in time during our college days. I didn't have a lot of chance to speak to him, so I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And I follow him a lot on LinkedIn. He has a ton of insights to share, and it's a pleasure to engage with him on the platform. So I thought, why not invite him and talk to him and see what his spin on things are. So let's go high on stories right away.
Definitely, I'm sure our people are gonna love this conversation. There are gonna be so many nuggets. Make sure you stick with us throughout. And this is High on Stories, the place where we bring you the best stories from around the world. And without further ado, let's bring Narayan right in. Again, Narayan, thank you so much for joining us today. We've been waiting so long and so eagerly to have this conversation with you, and I cannot wait to dive in.
Pleasure's mine. Thanks, Kaushik. Thanks, Karthik.
Thank you for joining, Narayan. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Narayan. And also, we're gonna right off the bat with High On Stories, we're gonna be asking our signature question to you, Narayan, today. What is your story? All of our people want to know. Please.
So my story, to be honest, is nothing exceptional, right? Like any other guy who grew up in the South, you had these aspirations to do certain things in life. But the good part about it is that my parents were a little different. I mean, growing up in Chennai, you generally see that parents who would generally coax their kids to get anything about 95%, and if you don't get that, you're generally a failure in life, right? So. Uh, actually pretty okay with that particular concept, right? Saying that if you didn't get 95, I knew a lot of classmates actually. I knew a neighbor actually who ended up getting some 98 percentage, right? And this guy decided that he's going to write the entrance all over again the next year. And his father ended up crying when this guy got 98, saying that this guy didn't score a centum in some particular paper. I can't recall which. And here was my father. I got something like an 85 or so, and my father said, "I mean, what is wrong with this man?" So that's the kind of culture that we grew up in. The love for marketing actually started very early on because it started with my father, right? So, and he worked for a public sector bank, but he used to tell us tales of what goes wrong in these banks. And so most of the time we used to actually laugh about those things, right? And he was very clear that I don't want my son or my son's actually working for a PSU. I mean, you can take it with a pinch of salt. Not many people will like it, but the reality is, over a period of time, we traveled from city to city. I've actually studied in more number of boards than most people can imagine. I've studied in matriculation, central, CBSE. I've studied ICSE. Except for Anglo-Indian board, I think I would have studied in most other boards, right? So the good part about it is you get to meet a lot of people in different cultures. So we've been in Orissa, Ooty, Chennai, Sambalpur, Bhubaneswar, Coimbatore, Bangalore. So you name it. And the bad part about it is I don't have too many childhood friends because there was no Facebook and stuff like that. So the kind of friends that you make is largely around the time that you get to your college, right? And so through your travels you start understanding and looking at different kinds of people, and that's a learning in itself. So I don't want to get into the academics part of it because that'll bore the hell out of everybody, right? So I'd like to keep it short. It's already long. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And it's really nice that how you mentioned that marketing was a calling early on. You didn't force it onto yourself, and it was such a natural progression, and that shows as to how you are here today. So thank you for that.
So
Yeah, yeah, and you know what, Kaushik, we hosted Shobit Mohan Narayan a few weeks back, and Shobit is the head of marketing at Sales Kannan in Bangalore, and he had a very similar profile to you. Where dad worked in a public sector bank, moved all over the place in the country, got introduced to so many kids, and I think probably. I think marketing kind of embeds into your life early on when you move and meet so many people. So thanks for bringing that perspective in, Narayan.
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So on that note, I want to ask you this, and you you're heading marketing for PayPal in India, and you're probably seeing so much. You're probably closest to the pulse of the people there in terms of how they spend or how they buy, the buyer psychology, things like that. And I want to ask you that way, that question on that note, and that is, we are witnessing a huge transformation, Narayan, right? I mean, people are moving from cash. Probably the demonetization accelerated the whole thing, and the COVID scenario now is kind of even given it more fillip today. So moving from a cash only platform to a digital only platform, as a marketer, what are the biggest challenges you face, Narayan, in terms of the whole transition, convincing people to do it?
See, the reality of it is, I mean, cash is a mindset, like how you called it, right? So the fact that you can touch and feel it, and the fact that you see value when people are actually passing it from one hand to the other is tangible, right? And digital money, for all that you do, I mean, there is a difference between seeing loads of cash in a sack, like what you do in a TV series, right? As opposed to seeing it in your bank account. You're not going to log into your bank account every second and feel it, right? But the way you should look at it is, people in the digital industry, in the digital payment space, have benefited hugely from what the government has done, right? One was demonetization. Obviously, there was a lot of pain that came with it. You remember how people stood in front of, right? But then you saw a new baseline emerging. But immediately after that, over a period of time, you saw that people went back to their old nature of actually transacting with cash. Now, there comes this moment called COVID, which is really, really unfortunate. It's been really sad for a lot of people. But the great part is you're seeing this not just across a country, you're seeing it across the globe, right? And now I think it'll be a different kind of a baseline, and I think it's going to sustain. The reason for that is now people don't see digital as a means of, getting another cashback offer. In India, we have this habit across sectors to actually spoil the behavior of people by throwing cash at them, right? Buy something for $50, get 250 rupees off, right? So not a sustainable way of doing business, right? So the thing that we've decided is digital. And because of the pandemic, people now realize that digital is a way of actually keeping the infection at bay. You don't see each other, but you can still pay via your mobile, right? And that is bringing the fact that, convenience is the biggest advantage with digital, right? And, the thing, if you look at the industries, everybody is going after consumers and they're talking to them, right? But the bigger part of what we do at PayPal is that we are focused on the merchants. You can approach a problem either by looking at the consumer, but as long as there are not merchants on the whole thing, it's a demand and supply thing, right? The moment you go and tap a merchant and you get that guy to actually believe into digital, he knows his business better than anybody else. He doesn't need a payment gateway or any other company to tell him that. But he needs convincing with the fact that, you go with this and then you can probably tap a larger base. So in a lot of ways, I think cash will exist. I don't think it's going to go away completely. But by and by, over a period of time, from where we are today to about a decade from now, we'll see a lot of difference in the way people transact. And that's starting. Like you can take the example of the guy that you buy bread from or eggs or whatever, right? In your and my case, probably we might not be buying eggs, Karthik, but a lot of other people might be, right? So if you look at that, they accept money payments through digital as a means. QR code, all of these things are things that the Western market is picking up from what happened in India. So competition is great. I don't think competition is bad at all because it's more choice for people, but it's also a means of convenience that we are able to get to people. So cash is going to go, but not anytime very soon. It'll have a new baseline for sure.
Okay. And then, I can't agree more with you when you brought up the point about buy for 250 rupees, get 250 rupees back into your wallet. I mean, that's just insane expectations and psychology from a buyer perspective, at least as far as India is concerned. So thank you for bringing this beautiful perspective through, Narayan.
True, Narayan, as you mentioned, and I love how you mentioned that this is something which the Western culture is picking up from here, because this UPI, as you mentioned, has revolutionized the entire fintech space, and we were one of the early adopters. It's really cool.
Yeah, see, I think a lot of digital payments as a space comes from the development in India specifically is coming from the government. I mean, you have to give it due credit. Obviously, the players in India are very, very smart. I mean, I have to give credit to each and every one of our competitors here, right? To say that we are the only ones that are doing cutting edge stuff wouldn't be right. If you look at it, India and China are probably more advanced than any other part of the globe. And if you look at Japan today, the government in Japan is also doing something very similar to what India is doing. They've actually taken it a step further. they are actually going to bear the price of, the discounting that's going to come at merchants. So in a lot of ways, I think Asia will actually lead the way in terms of digital payments. And it's a good thing for a change.
Interesting, extremely interesting. And on that note, Narayan, a small pivot, but continuing within the space. So you have quite a bit of experience in the influencer marketing space. And now if anybody says influencer marketing, it's always B2C. Do you see any scope of influencer marketing in the B2B space with PayPal being both in the B2C and B2B space? Will I get to be an influencer someday in the B2B space?
That pose might work against you, but that I think there is a fair bit of see. Firstly, on influence marketing, I think every form of marketing has always existed, always, right? You can take any century. I don't even want to talk about decades right now. You can go centuries back, and there would have been somebody who's done influencer marketing. And I love putting this in perspective, right? Influencer marketing is when you get influenced by what somebody else tells you, and that comes from an area of trust, right? There would have been the matchmaker in a particular country who would have said, this is a good family, get your daughter or your son married into this particular family and you're set. That's an influencer, right? Or there is this old uncle who's sitting somewhere and he's telling you that, you know what, I absolutely trust the Hindu as a newspaper, right? In Chennai, if you go there, even today, the old uncles in the morning with their filter coffee in their hand, they have to see the Hindu, right? And that's influencer marketing, right? Whether the Hindu still is the greatest paper is something that we don't know. I really love the Hindu, all said and done, right? And so for different reasons altogether, the Times of India also, right? But the fact of the matter is today, influencer marketing is a term. And we have this habit in marketing to, regurgitate the old stuff over and over again and give it fancy terms, right? So the reality is, I think content marketing, influencer marketing, all of this has always existed. And I think there will always be a space. The good part is that each one of these categories will go. And whenever I talk to people, they'll ask me something like, what, do you think digital is the future of the world? Traditional marketing is going to die. Nothing is going to die. The reality is that everything is going to coexist. Everything is going to grow. Look at the pandemic, right? If you see the trends in India specifically, during the pandemic, you've seen the reruns of Ramayan gathering more views than anything else. And that's happened on Doordarshan. So everybody sitting in a city actually thinks that beyond the OTTs, there is no scope for anything else to grow. And the Ramayana is still 30 years old. It had animation that is like cringeworthy at times, right? So you could see somebody flying an arrow takes about 20 minutes to just travel from one direction to another. But the emotion and the depth of whatever was being spoken about is still ringing true, right? So whether it's B2B or B2C, I think influencer marketing will still have a role to play, but it will also depend on, people confuse a celebrity with influencer. A celebrity is a celebrity. You can have a celebrity who's an influencer, but there's a distinct difference. So if you're able to get somebody with credibility talking to that particular set, you will have great scope in it, whether it's B2C or B2B.
Brilliantly put. And as you mentioned, with marketing, there might be several fancy terms, but the underlying core fundamental principles are always the same. So beautiful. Thank you for that, Narayan.
Yeah. I mean, I'm loving the energy that you're bringing to this conversation, Alan. And I think one of the points that you raised, that influencer marketing has existed forever, was actually also reiterated by one of our previous guests. His name is Rajesh Srinivasan. And he said that, when Gandhiji started the Dandi March, he had just 12 people. By the time he reached the shores at Dandi, he had close to 50,000 followers, right? So I think influencer marketing and regurgitating the content, I mean, that's such a fabulous point. I mean, it has always existed, but we are finding new ways of rechristening the name. So thank you so much for that thought, Narayan. So, and I want to ask you on that note itself, since you've been, so close to so many B2C brands and B2B brands, and probably you, like I said before, you're probably closest to the pulse of the market. From your perspective, from your vantage point, Narayan, what do you think? Which ones do you think, which companies, B2B, B2C, whichever comes to your mind, are doing the marketing thing correctly in India from an Indian perspective? They're doing it rightly. You're really in awe of the way they're doing it. You're probably inspiring it. You're getting inspiration from it. Which ones do you think, Narayan, from the top of your mind?
Okay, see, I can quote 100 Western names, right? But obviously that they do a brilliant job. I mean, the whole concept of Super Bowl is more than the game, right? The people look forward to the TV ad, the Super Bowl, right? But let me stay away from that trap and that temptation, right? And I'll take Indian names right now, right? So a brand that I really love that does great work in India is Swiggy, right? The reason is because, they're new, and you might call it a startup, you might call it a unicorn and all of that, but the kind of messaging that they put out, and I place a lot of premium on messaging, right? The messaging that they put out is right up there. Every time you see a Swiggy ad, I am yet to see somebody across the room who doesn't have a smile on their face when they see a Swiggy ad, right? And they're able to make it so contextual. So if it's an IPL, you have an ad where this old uncle and auntie are sitting together, and this guy. And the beauty of it is, everybody says that, your value proposition, if you're a marketing guy, people say that your value proposition and your product has to shine through. But the reality is with Swiggy, they're able to do it seamlessly. They don't keep saying that minimum order to quantity has been launched in Swiggy. Like you would see a lot of other brands, that will straight away talk about 40% discount and 70% discount. These guys will go to the heart of the messaging and the story, and then the value proposition seamlessly blends into it. So I like that brand on the B2C space. On the B2B side, again, I'm going to give you a caveat before I name it, because a lot of people in India confuse the fact that unless you're putting in dollars to invest or it's tangibly visible to people, they think that great marketing isn't happening, right? With that caveat, let me tell you, I really love the work that PayPal does in India. And I'm not saying this because I'm working for PayPal, because it sounds like the thing to say to be actually in the good books of people, but that's not the reason why I'm saying it, right? The reason why we say it is we do things that are really choiceful. We do things that make the brand sustainable, right? And if you look at most brands, right, the reason why they sustain and they become institutions over a period of time, I love the way even a State Bank of India does things, right? At points of time, and there is this great video. I don't know if you've seen this. There is this great video on YouTube, which says that how every COVID ad is exactly the same as the next brand, right? And that criticism apart, if you look at that thing, it will show you how every brand wants to be seen as new age. Every brand wants to be seen as human. They will still talk to you about these common points, right? Which is the fact that we have a heritage. Since 1970, 1930, 1920, everybody is old. But the thing is, they still want to be seen as new. So trust comes with age and heritage, but they still want to show you that, okay, we've evolved with times, right? And there are certain brands that stand in that respect. If you look at SBI, I mean, huge off it, right? You might still perceive it as a government-run bank, but they're doing stuff like the YONO app, which is very, very clean, which is technologically very good. But the fundamental messaging of if you look at anybody, if you asked a blind man, right, any guy in India right now, as to where you would put your money without actually expecting too much returns, but the fact that your capital is never lost, invariably the name that will come to you is an SBI. So I have huge respect for that brand. And similarly, MNC brands also, because I work for a few of them and I understand where they come from a positioning perspective. So that's where we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant answer. And I mean, PayPal, the way their messaging is, it's fabulous. I was reading one of the articles where you had contributed to it on how they are shaping up for the Diwali rush, Diwali bonanza that people are going to roll out. Fabulous stuff. And yeah, Swiggy and State Bank, I think really great examples. I mean, when you have to go down to the core and, really bring out the value prop, nobody does it better than. Fabulous answer. Thank you, Narayan.
In between, Narayan, you stressed upon the importance of narratives and messaging. Can you elaborate a little on that for us, please?
See, I have always believed that, unless you humanize a brand, you don't do justice to it, right? So here's the thing. A common point of what most marketers, people will start off with is, they'll think that, and let me give you the example of PayPal. PayPal is a two-sided network. One is a merchant side, the other is a consumer side, right? The moment you talk to a merchant, you can't make the assumption that it's not a person that's sitting on the other side. The merchant is still a consumer for somebody else, right? He's still a guy who's eating food and doing the same things as anybody else, right? So the thing is, you don't immediately make him look like a corporate that is made out of bricks and cement and all of that. Your messaging has to still talk at a human level, right? So, and that is exactly, which brings me to the point of what great messaging is. And you look at CPG industries and FMCG, the reason why every marketer who ever comes up from a college wants to go into a CPG is because they teach you the basics of marketing, right? And if you look at new age brands, that's my only complaint with new age brands in India, at least. Everybody straight away jumps into the solution. They will talk to you straight away about doing a cute social post, right? And if they get a few thousand likes, they're overjoyed. They jump all over the place, and they'll tell you that you even have discussions with them. And the first discussion that will come up is, are you going to tag me on a tweet? Are you going to send out emails to your customers and stuff like that? Those things really do not matter, right? Just the other day, I was thinking about it. People confuse a meme with a strategy. A meme is not a strategy, right? You've done a meme, very good. I'm going to clap for you. I would have enjoyed that particular moment, but what have I taken home about the brand? Nothing. A meme cannot be a strategy. It can be a strategy for an agency that makes memes because that's their business. But on the client side, a meme cannot be a strategy. So somebody making memes can always tell a story, but does the brand benefit from that story? I'm not really clear about, right? So you look at a Surf Excel, or you look at any great brand in the CPG space, they will always tell you a story. There is an insight, there is an observation, and there is always the story that will come out of it. And that should shine through, right? So if you can't make that happen, then the brand fails.
Beautiful. Spot on. Got it.
Yeah, and you know, Narayan, we love that thought. However, I'd still like to probe you a little further. And you did say this in terms of messaging, and you did highlight this, but I'd still like to ask you this. What do you think, in your mind, marketers should stop doing today, Narayan? I mean, probably they did something that was working in 2005 or 2007 or 2009 or maybe 20 years back. But in your opinion, what is that one thing that they should stop doing it? Stop doing it, boss. I mean, enough of it. I mean, don't keep people who are already aware of it, but rather try something new. What do you think people should stop doing in terms of marketing?
Yeah, I might get beaten up for this, but this is a personal opinion, right? The thing that you shouldn't do is just, solve for just today. So sure. So the thing that I don't think marketers should look at is straight away, classify themselves as, I am a digital marketer, or the fact that I am an offline marketer, right? It doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you why. These are capabilities that you build. These are skill sets, right? And the common mistake that people make is always jumping to the solution straight away. I have done this a lot of times over career, and I've had to pull myself back. I don't know if it's true across every other part of the globe, but in India, I've seen this commonly, that everybody straight away thinks about the end media channel that you will go to. Like if there is a problem, you will immediately think I have to put out a Facebook post or an Instagram story, right? That's not the solution. You need to really arrive at what are you trying to solve for. And when you ask people their goals and what are you trying to do this, it might sound theoretical, but the realistic answer is, it's not theoretical. Your goal cannot be that, I'm going to drive 50% extra sales, or from this I want 1,500 leads. Those are really, really narrow metrics to target, right? And even really evolved brands, I can tell you from experience that they all do this. Only the real big ones that understand the value of a brand, they don't do this, right? And one of my pet peeves is the fact that global brands are starting to say that we don't want a chief marketing officer, we want a chief digital officer. And that's why I said I might get beaten up here, but I will still go and put it out, right? Digital is a means of communicating. Digital is not marketing. Digital is a part of marketing, right? Although I have survived and lived through digital, and that's what I will continue to do, right? But because my background is a lot of digital. But the reality is, I don't like to call myself a digital marketer. Those are designations that I've taken at different places, right? But the fact is, I consider myself a marketer. And for me, a creative trumps a channel. A channel will never trump a creative. So, wow. Yeah.
Super. That was super. And especially the point about, the narrow-minded approach of driving 1,500 leads or so many, this thing is so narrow-minded. I mean, I think we have to let go of that approach and that mindset and, look at the larger picture. And like you said, it's not theoretical anymore. Look at the goals objectively. What do you want to drive? Fabulous points there, Narayan.
Yeah, and this reminded me of one of the greats of marketing who even coined the phrase which says, the medium is the message. So don't get hung up on a platform or it could be radio, it could be TV, it could be. So he was a visionary. He coined this even when social media didn't exist. So what you told me reminded me of what I can't remember the name. I think his name was McLuhan, Marshall McLuhan. So yeah, so it's a really interesting phrase which he brought up. And Narayan, just before we head to our rapid fire question, I have one last question for you, Narayan. So you spoke about maybe don't do this. How about we do this? So there are a lot of people who are listening to us right now who are in their early stages of their career like me. And what advice would you give us, Narayan? What direction would you point us in? And what do marketers like me do?
I am not one for advices, let me be honest, right? So uh, the reality is, keep your eyes open. More than any book or anything else, you have to, if you are truly a student of marketing, you have to observe and see how things react, right? How do people perceive things? And this is a great reality, right? You might want to put out something, but people perceive it as something else, right? So the fact that you have to be honest as a marketer, and one of my sincere beliefs is, if you have to be a good marketer, you have to be a good human being, right? uh, the, the fact that you do a CSR campaign and you think immediately you put out a PR message around it and people start reacting around it, that's one thing. The other bit is, do you really believe in that particular cause? If you don't, then don't do it. You should not be doing, and learn the art of questioning. It might be your manager, it might be your leader, it might be people 2 or 3 levels above you. But if you get that opportunity, you should definitely question things, because if you don't question, you will never learn. That's one of the things that I do with my team. I have always done. If you don't have an opinion, right? One is to actually look at things and then say that, I completely agree with whatever you're saying. But that's the one thing that I really don't like. You should have an opinion. You might be completely off the mark, but to just observe a thing is just a statement. But to actually have an opinion of it is what builds your knowledge in the future. So more than a book, I am all for people actually observing things and doing it consciously.
Curiosity. Beautiful. Thank you for that. I'll make sure I follow that, and so will all of our people. Thank you, Narayan.
Yeah,
Sure.
so many of our people, Narayan, the points that you said, so many of our people listening to us, watching us on the show today, will actually draw a lot of inspiration from what you said, having an individual opinion, questioning. I mean, so thank you for bringing that up. And that also brings us to the most interesting and the fabulous part of our conversation today, Narayan, and that is the rapid fire round. It's the second biggest flagship in the High On Stories show. So the rapid fire round is, there are 10 questions for you. Each question.
Do I get a hamper?
No, you get a 250 rupee
On your PayPal wallet.
That's good enough. I'll take it.
So,
I don't have too big expectations. I'm fine with it.
yeah, absolutely. So whenever the show goes big, Narayan, yes, count on us to do that. But yeah, so what we're also going to do is ask you 10 rapid fire questions. You have 5 seconds to answer. 1-word responses, but you also have the choice to buck the trend there, and maybe you want to explain some of that, some of your responses. The choice is up to you. But yeah, so we'll go with the rapid fire, with the first rapid fire question for you, Narayan. Here we go. So, who's your favorite salesperson or marketer, Narayan?
Actually, I have 2 or 3. One would be Richard Branson, right? The other would be Vince McMahon from WWE.
Okay.
And third would be The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Wow, yeah, absolute personalities, super personalities, great. This is a tricky one, so please think over this. The next question: what is your favorite brand?
Can I change the question a bit and tell you what is my favorite ad?
I know this. What's your favorite brand? You have to come out to the open on this.
Okay, see, my favorite brand from an employee perspective would be the one that I'm working for, which is PayPal. And the reason, and since you gave me the option to answer, the reason for that is PayPal believes in a lot of things that also resonate with my personal values, right? And I don't say this very lightly. Once you start working for PayPal and you start listening to people right at the top, you know that there are things that PayPal does that comes from the heart. It's not to drive PR value, or it's not to get that extra $5, right? That is something that I really like. From a messaging perspective, I've already told you I'm a huge fan of Swiggy. That's where we are. And just because you didn't let me answer, I'll tell you my favorite ad is Hamara Bajaj from the 90s.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if Kaushik is aware, but yeah, a superb jingle to it. Yeah. Okay, the next one, again slightly tricky, and that is, who's your favorite author?
A simple one, actually. I have 2 favorite authors. One is Jeffrey Archer. The other is R.K. Naarayan.
Oh, beautiful, yeah, R.K. Naarayan. Awesome. Who's your favorite entrepreneur?
I would say Elon Musk is the guy that I really like. The other end of the spectrum is Baba Ramdev.
Too good. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
because he's built credibility. See, I say
yeah.
that brand is built on credibility. People just think that Patanjali was built overnight. It's taken 10 plus years to build it.
Yeah.
But that's why I really like the guy.
Yeah. And Patanjali is giving the run for some of the biggest brands for their money. Yeah, absolutely. Cool, good one there. Who is your favorite movie star?
Any day Mohanlal.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
So and I'll explain why, right? It'll be Mohanlal followed by Kamal Hassan and followed by Amitabh Bachchan. And there's a simple analogy to this, right? If you watched Mohanlal movies, he's a guy who can laugh and make you cry. Kamal Hassan will cry and make you cry. And obviously Amitabh Bachchan is a great. So anybody who can traverse the spectrum between comedy and serious acting is a great actor. For me, Mohanlal epitomizes it.
Yeah. You know what? My daughter is listening to our conversation and she's laughing away. Her favorite actor is Mohanlal. So thank you for bringing this. And so we move on to the next question. That is, who's your favorite sports star, Narayan?
I would say it has to be Tendulkar and Viv Richards.
Sachin Tendulkar and Viv Richards. Awesome. Beautiful ambassadors of the sport. What keeps Narayan awake at 2 a.m.?
My daughters. I'm not going to tell you fancy answers like I keep thinking about what's going to happen in the next century and stuff like that.
That's why I asked.
It is, yeah, it's mostly me trying to actually calm them down to saying that, okay, it's time you put the mobile down and sleep. So
tell me about it. Okay, awesome. And Narayan, so this is an insightful. We're trying to peel more into your character, into your personality, and that is, if you had a billboard for yourself, there is a lot of traffic flowing by, and people have the chance to look at that billboard. What would you write on that billboard that people can see, get inspiration, or love it? Or what would be that one thing that you want to write on that billboard, Narayan?
I would say this is a man you can trust.
About yourself. Awesome. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So see, once I have done that and I've built credibility, for me, everything comes down to credibility. After that, everything that I say is something that you're likely to believe, right? So
yeah, absolutely. You're laying the groundwork. The other question that I want to ask you is, if you had the chance to have dinner with 3 people, either alive or not alive anymore, who would they be and why?
see, for me, any day it'll be my family, right? So I am not into this culture of actually, I'm not celeb obsessed. So the reality for me is it would have to be my brother.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have to be the rest of my family probably. I will see that I am not very good at making forced conversations because then it's not me being me. Right? I'm very good at being myself, and to make those conversations where I have to ask these intelligent questions and stuff like that, I can't do that. So for me, my family would any day be the kind of people that I'd like to have dinner with.
Very, very, very warm and very, very authentic answer, Narayan. Thank you so much for that. And the last question, what would Narayan have become had he not become a marketer today?
I think a copywriter in an agency or probably a film director or a script writer. I might still become one of those.
Wow. Oh, this is a facet of your personality you haven't told us. Okay. I think that deserves another conversation, but super. Okay.
Nice. Narayan, but I'm a little offended now. Aren't copywriters also marketers?
And who, sorry?
Aren't copywriters also marketers?
I think, why not? Yes, they are. To be honest, yes. But see, the thing is, I look at marketing as a perspective from a client's end, right? It's a bad definition, to be honest. But I look at advertising as as a part of marketing, right? So if I had to be that, the reality is there is a bit of a marketer in everybody, right? So.
All right, so we are almost nearing the end of our conversation, Narayan, and I cannot believe that we are almost done. Karthik, we have to bring Narayan back. It's just that it's so evident. Yeah, there are so many more stories for Narayan to share, and there's so much we can learn from him.
Yeah.
And Narayan, before we let you go, what is the one thing you want all of our people listening to us now to do after this conversation?
This conversation, go enjoy a nice cup of coffee or tea.
Best answer so far.
Don't take yourself seriously in life. I mean, I've started realizing this. I mean, with every new gray hair that I add in my life, the thing that dawns upon me is that there is no point in being too serious in life, right? You have to be good at what you do, but there is a larger thing at play, right? So I would always say that it's more important to be a happy person and bring happiness around you than actually being a roaring success in life and then dying out of a heart attack, right? So the reality is, I mean, one has to get their perspective right. If it works for you, good for you. But largely try and be happy around you. That's it.
Beautiful. Wow, that was so beautiful. That struck a chord on so many levels, and it's just so reassuring to hear that. Thank you for that, Narayan. And again, as I mentioned, our people are going to have so many questions for you. Where can they find you after this, Narayan?
I think LinkedIn is the best platform. As Karthik knows, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, Kaushik, if one of these days, if the LinkedIn server, India server crashes, you know whom to,
Because of Narayan.
you know who to get in touch with and who caused it rather. But Narayan, on a very personal note, thank you so much for taking the time out. I know it's been a crazy 6 months, 8 months, and I know there's been a crazy time for all of us, but thank you so much for taking the time out, talking to us, sharing your insights. I think you probably laid the foundation for one more conversation, maybe 3 months, 6 months down the lane. But thank you so much for bringing these insights to us. Thank you.
What you're saying is basically you need 3 months to just figure out what I said.
Oh yeah, we need to let all this settle in. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure it's going to take 3 to 6 months just for things to settle. Thank you so much for having me around.
Thank you so much, Narayan.
Take care and talk to you soon.
Bye. See you guys.
Bye. Oh, wow, Kaushik, that was such a fabulous conversation with Narayan. I loved so many things, but the things that will stay with me forever was his take on influencer marketing. And that's something that even Rajesh also conveyed to us a few weeks back about how marketing, content marketing, influencer marketing, all of them have been around for so many centuries, but it's just today that we're putting newer names to it. So Narayan had such a nice take to it. And his message to our people who are watching us, who are following us on the show, about being yourself, having the curiosity, and having an opinion for it, and not asking enough questions. Such a fabulous conversation. I loved his energy. We loved his energy absolutely through the conversation.
True. Definitely, Karthik. And I loved his point on curiosity because I, as a person generally, and I also see, and I also love others who do this, is people who ask questions. Because don't be okay with the status quo. Like, don't just be okay with what's happening. Question. Try to understand. Don't be inquisitive. Be curious. There's a difference. There's nothing wrong in asking questions. And with Charge B as well, where I work. So there's something which is enforced throughout. Like, all our leaders, everybody, even curiosity is even one of the culture codes which we have in Charge B. It's beautiful how we're encouraged to ask so many questions, and just go out there and ask questions, you guys. And on that note, ask us questions as well. What topics would you like us to cover? Ask us that question. Any other doubt you have, ask us that question in the comments below. Anything else, Karthik?
I guess those were really great points, and we thank you, Narayan, if you're watching this. Thank you for your time. We hope we do wind back to you in about 3 or 6 months. And thank you, listeners.
Definitely. Thank you so much, you guys. But right before you're off, is there another friend who enjoys stories? Is there another person who's just like you, starting their career, looking to learn from all of our leaders? Send this to them. It'll definitely help them out. And also, share your top takeaways in the comments and send those stories out on social. Make sure you tag us. We love hearing from all of you. Until then, we will see you in the next one. Keep getting high on stories, you guys.
Cheers, guys.